Beale Street, Memphis. A warm July night in 1976. The streetlights glowed softly over the red bricks. Blues horns drifted from open bar doors, and tourists crowded the legendary street shoulder to shoulder. Elvis Presley was walking quietly through the crowd, wearing a black cap low over his eyes. He just wanted a peaceful night, a chance to hear real street music. The raw kind he grew up with. Then he stopped, not because of fans, not because of the noise, but because of a melody one so old, so intimate, that he had heard it from only one person in his entire life. An elderly homeless man, thin and frail, sat against a brick wall with a battered guitar missing a string. A small tin can rested near his feet, but his eyes were closed, lost in the music, river to heaven. Elvis swallowed hard. His heart kicked in his chest. Impossible. It couldn't be that song, because only two people on earth knew this melody. The man in front of him and a young boy named Elvis Presley, more than 20 years ago. When the old man opened his eyes and looked up, it felt as if all of Beale Street held its breath. And the story began in that very moment. To understand why Elvis froze in the middle of Beale Street that night, we have to go far back to Tupelo, Mississippi, to the poor, forgotten days Elvis rarely spoke about. Elvis was 8 years old then, a skinny little boy with sun-bleached hair, living with his parents in a tiny house so fragile that a strong wind could shake the roof. They were so poor that many days Elvis went to school with nothing but dry bread in his pocket. He was shy, soft-spoken, and often teased for his strange voice and worn-out clothes. And in those bleak days, Elvis met Moses Carter, an elderly black man who sat under the big cypress tree behind the Tupelo market, playing a battered guitar that looked like it had survived a war. Yet whenever Moses touched the strings, the whole neighborhood seemed to quiet down. Elvis often watched from afar, too timid to approach. One summer afternoon, Moses called out, "Boy, come here. You listen every day, but you never sit down." Elvis blushed and stepped closer. Moses handed him the guitar. "You got a heart that hears music," Moses said, "and a heart like that deserves to learn how to speak." It was the first real guitar Elvis had ever held. Moses taught him chords, rhythm, the way music should feel rather than sound. But the greatest thing Moses taught wasn't technique, it was belief. Being poor ain't the problem. Elvis, not believing in yourself is. One evening, Moses taught Elvis a song he had written himself, "River to Heaven." A melody so haunting, so gentle. It felt like a prayer drifting through the evening air. Moses whispered, "Don't play this for anyone. This song is yours. When you're grown, if you ever play it again, it means you've found your path." But when Elvis was 12, Moses disappeared from Tupelo without a trace. No one knew where he went or whether he was even alive. Elvis carried the melody in his heart all his life, but he never played it again. It was too sacred, too tied to the man who first believed he had a future. And now, here on a noisy Beale Street, that same melody returned from the hands of a homeless old man. It couldn't be coincidence. It couldn't be anyone else. And Elvis knew if this was Moses Carter, fate had brought them together again, at the exact moment they both needed it most. Elvis walked slowly toward the old man, each step feeling like a journey back into his own childhood. Every note, drifting from that battered guitar, squeezed his heart tighter. It wasn't just the melody he recognized, it was the way the man played. Gentle, as if telling a story. Heavy, as if saying a prayer. That was the way Moses had always played. When Elvis stood right in front of him, the streetlight cast a soft glow over the man's worn, hollow cheeks. The old man opened his eyes. They were cloudy with age. But for a moment, a faint spark flickered inside them. "Evening, son," he rasped, voice rough like gravel. "You want to hear some more?" Elvis didn't answer immediately. He knelt down so their eyes were level, then whispered, "Are you Moses?" The old man frowned, as if the name had been buried for decades. It took a long moment for him to respond. "No one's called me that in years." He gave a tired smile. "But yes, I'm Moses Carter. Do I know you?" Elvis swallowed. Slowly, he removed his sunglasses. The moment Moses saw his face, he froze. His jaw dropped. The wrinkles on his face trembled, as if fighting between disbelief and recognition. "Oh, dear Lord," he whispered. "Those eyes. I'd know them even if I went blind." His trembling hand lifted, brushing Elvis's cheek like someone touching a memory he never thought he'd see again. "Elvis, it's really you." Elvis took the old man's hand and held it firmly. "It's me, teacher." Just that single word, teacher, made Moses break down. Tears streamed down his weathered cheeks, dripping onto his calloused hand. "I thought you forgot me. I thought the whole world forgot me." Elvis shook his head. "He never forgot. You were the first person who ever told me I had a voice. The first person who believed in me." Moses let out a shaky laugh through his tears. "All I saw was a skinny boy with eyes that could hear music." Elvis sat beside him, staring at the broken guitar. "What happened to you? How did you end up like this?" Moses went silent for a long time. Then he began to speak, as if gathering pieces of a life scattered across decades. His wife had died from illness. His son was killed in an accident. Then a fire burned down the little home he had left. With no family and no money, he drifted from town to town until his legs carried him no farther. Memphis became his final stop. "I play every day," Moses whispered, staring at his hands. "No one really listens anymore, but it's the only thing I still have." Elvis felt a sharp, unbearable pain in his chest. Guilt, grief, love, all tangled together. He had lived a life of stages, lights, wealth, and worship, while the man who taught him the first notes of music sat forgotten on the side of a street. It wasn't fair. None of it was fair. "Come with me," Elvis said suddenly, rising to his feet. Moses recoiled. "Elvis, no. I'm dirty. I smell. You don't need." Elvis cut him off. "I need you. I owe you my whole life." He called for his bodyguards, but he didn't allow them to touch Moses. Elvis himself lifted the frail man, almost cradling him, as if carrying the very foundation of his own past. He guided Moses into the car and drove straight to Graceland. When they passed through the gates, Moses's eyes widened. This is your home." Elvis smiled softly. "Our home tonight." Moses was cleaned up, given warm clothes, his beard trimmed, his wounds treated. When he walked out of the bathroom wearing clean cotton for the first time in years, Elvis felt tears sting his eyes. "You look just like the man I remember." Moses chuckled. "Older, but still breathing." Elvis led him into the small recording room inside Graceland. The soft yellow lights glowed against the chrome of the microphone. "Do you remember River to Heaven?" Elvis asked. Moses stared at him, stunned, eyes filling instantly. "I remember, but I never thought you would." Elvis picked up a guitar, pressed a chord, and played the opening notes, warm, gentle, full of memory. Moses covered his mouth with his hand, shaking uncontrollably. You kept it. All these years." Elvis looked at him. "It was the first song that ever felt like mine. I kept it in my heart." They sat together. Elvis played. Moses hummed along. The old man's voice cracked, broke, healed, and broke again. But every sound carried a lifetime of love. The musicians outside the studio froze in place when they heard the melody. None dared interrupt. Moses cried the entire time, but he kept singing. When the song ended, he whispered, "I can be peaceful now, because you found your way." Elvis wrapped his arms around him. "No, I'm not done paying back what you gave me." The next morning, Elvis did something no one expected. He bought Moses a small house just outside Memphis, a warm little home with a porch where the old man could sit and play every sunset. Elvis arranged a monthly stipend big enough to take care of Moses for the rest of his life. Before Moses moved in, Elvis placed a brand new guitar in his hands. "You gave me my first song," Elvis said softly. "Now I'm giving you the life you deserve." Moses cried again for the third time in 2 days. "Elvis, you're more than I ever imagined you'd become." Elvis smiled. "I'm only returning what you gave me first belief." The story of Elvis finding Moses spread across Memphis within days. People whispered that Elvis didn't just save a homeless man, he saved a part of his own soul. Newspapers interviewed neighbors who had known Moses for years, never realizing that the frail old man playing guitar by the market had once been the very first teacher of the king of rock and roll. Moses moved into the small house Elvis bought for him. Every afternoon, he sat on the wooden porch, playing soft fragments of River to Heaven. Children from the neighborhood often gathered at his feet, listening to him talk about a shy, skinny boy from Tupelo who once asked, "Do you think I can sing?" Moses always answered with the same gentle smile, "I saw something the world hadn't seen yet." Elvis visited whenever he could, sometimes for minutes, sometimes for hours. They would sit side by side on the porch, Moses playing, Elvis listening, two lives that had diverged into different worlds, yet remained bound by the same root music. Those quiet visits helped Elvis confront something he rarely admitted behind all the fame: lights and pressure. He was still connected to the people who built his beginning, and Moses was one of the strongest threads. When Elvis died, Memphis mourned, but no one felt the loss as deeply as Moses. When reporters asked for his thoughts, he spoke only one sentence, a sentence that broke the city's heart: "I did not lose a student. I lost a son I never got to raise." Moses lived 5 more peaceful years in the home Elvis gave him. Among the few belongings he kept close was the guitar Elvis gifted him and the single recording of the two of them performing River to Heaven together in the Graceland studio. When Graceland later displayed that recording, they included the handwritten note Elvis had attached: "For my teacher Moses Carter, the man who laid the first stone on my musical path. If you stayed with this story until the very end, perhaps you felt what Elvis once understood, that sometimes the person who changes our life is someone the world has forgotten, but our heart never did. And one day, at the right moment, they return. Not to receive gratitude, but to remind us no one walks their path alone. Every one of us has a Moses in our life, someone who planted a seed of belief, a word, a leçon, a look, even if they never realized it. If someone like that still lives in your memory, write their name in the comments. And if they are no longer here, write something you wish you had told them. And if you want more stories that touch memory, emotion, and the deepest corners of the heart, stories that remind you of kindness, humanity, and fate, hit subscribe so that every day we can meet again through a story reminding us that no matter how far life pushes us, music, love, and gratitude always lead us back to where we belong.